At GRM Networks, connection means more than just phone and internet. It means community. As a member-owned cooperative, GRM Networks delivers reliable, advanced communications technology while putting customers first. From fast, dependable internet to quality phone services, you can count on a network built for you. And because GRM is locally invested, every connection helps strengthen the communities we call home. GRM Networks, connecting people, supporting communities, and delivering service you can trust.
Have friends or family coming to Bethany? Give them a home away from home at Hidden Acres Cabin Rentals. In the rolling hills of Bethany, our cozy cabins start at $140 a night and include everything guests need to relax: private space, modern amenities, and a peaceful country setting. Book a cabin today at hiddenacrescabinrentals.com or call 660-373-9927. Hidden Acres Cabins. Comfort for your guests, just minutes from you.
All right, we welcome you in again to one of our Sports Central interviews, sponsored by Harrison County Community Hospital, joined by South Harrison varsity girls coach Kale Watson. And since we last talked, Coach, you went to Maryville. Second time you played them down Savannah tournament. Tough team with Maryville, ended up losing that one. And then the next night, turn around. So you get on a bus, head west to Maryville, come back the next night, get on a bus, head to the far east of Brookfield, get a conference win down there. Maybe just talk about those two games and how that Thursday-Friday doubleheader went for you guys.
Yeah. We'd already seen Maryville once. I think the last time we had chatted, we kind of knew what we were in for. Going to Maryville, it's going to be a hostile environment over there in the MEC. And they're athletic. Kind of felt pretty good about going into the game. Just some things we were trying to clean up on offense. I felt like we were allowing them to get a ton of points off turnovers after the first time we'd played them. Unfortunately, it was a very similar game. Probably a little worse the second go around. We struggled to take care of the ball. We struggled to defend them with their speed and athleticism on the perimeter. Thought we got into some pretty just poor closeouts. If you can't defend the basketball one-on-one to start your defense, you're going to put your backside into a lot of rotations. You're going to give up the paint way too much. And that's kind of what that was. It kind of got off to a rough start, and it never really improved throughout the entirety of the game. So after the game, we had a little sit-down meeting with everybody in the locker room, and we kind of went around the room and talked about some things that we need to do as a coaching staff, some things the girls asked us to do. I'm all about that. If I'm not doing my part, I want to be held accountable. They kind of told us some things we needed to fix from a coaching perspective, and we said, we'll take care of that. And we asked them to do some things on their end, and I think, at any given season, I could probably look back on good ones. And there is a moment where, push comes to shove and something's got to change or something's really got to get fixed. And I'd like to think that was probably the moment. I just wish it hadn't taken so long to get to that point. But we got a good group of girls that are very introspective. They're going to look at themselves. They're going to look at everything all together. And that game was kind of one of those, we got punched in the mouth and we had to figure out a way to respond. And I thought it led to great conversation in the locker room post game. And I think if nothing else, that's kind of what you want from your team when you get in those situations. So it was a bad situation, but I felt like we turned it into a good one after all was said and done.
Okay, then you get on the bus, head to Brookfield the next night, get a 64-32 win. I didn't make the trip, but I was watching online. Looked like you guys were able to get your offense going defensively. Looked really well that night there in a conference game at Brookfield.
Yeah. We talked to the girls after the Maryville game. We said, hey, we've got all these things we want to fix, but the unfortunate part is we're on back-to-back nights, so we're going to have to fix it on the fly. I thought for the most part we had a little more of a mentality about ourselves going into that game. You're talking about two different opponents. Maryville's man pressure all over. Brookfield was more zone heavy, so we were going to get a little different flavor that night against Brookfield. Early on, I felt like we were doing things correctly. We had fixed some things in terms of on-ball defense and backside help. We just weren't getting anything out of it. Probably fouling a little too much in the first quarter, first half especially. We got like a 10-point lead. got into half, felt pretty good about that lead. Then we came out in the third and we proceeded to kind of turn the ball over a little too much. And they got it to within, I think they got it to within 3 or 5. And I think after I went back and watched film, it was at about the 3-minute mark. I think we were at 35 points and we ended the game with 64. And that was credit to the girls. It was like a light bulb went off. Someone flipped the light switch on. I think we turned Brookfield over 15 straight times in a row. And almost all of those ended in a possession that either got us a basket or got us to the free throw line. We had big games from Lexi, from Bailey. Really anybody that touched the floor that night, Ab played really well. Really anyone that touched the floor that night had either anywhere from 6 to 14 points. And we've been talking about that here lately. That's kind of who we are. We've got to share it and spread it around. We got hot from the 3-point line, which had kind of been a little bit of an Achilles heel. I think we had hit 7 threes that night. And I think for me, it was just seeing them respond to us challenging them a little bit in the game. We kind of challenged each one of them individually, a little more confrontational about poor defense, poor closeouts, just nitpicking little things. And I felt like with that 3-minute mark left in the third, everybody kind of started taking things a little bit more personal. And I thought they did a really good job of bouncing back from the night before and kind of asserting our will on somebody else. So, all in all, it was a good game. I wouldn't say it was a 4-quarter game in terms of performance, but I thought it was a good step in the right direction in terms of amping up the defense and kind of jumpstarting our offense a little bit.
And so then you get Gallatin on Tuesday, another GRC game. Gallatin came in; they were undefeated at the time in conference at 2-0. Not a whole lot of depth on that Gallatin team. And you guys came out early with your full court pressure. I thought that gave them a lot of trouble. Even when you weren't getting steals, there were turnovers. You were speeding them up. And then early, Briley Sherrill was on fire from the 3-point line there in the first quarter. And you guys shot really well, especially from the perimeter in that first half.
Yeah, like you said, we knew going in our big tactic was going to be to put pressure on them. The lack of depth in their bench. I felt like we probably had a little more speed than them. So we were going to hang our hat on our full court press. And, yeah, Briley Sherrill, I think, she hit 4 threes in the first half. I think her first 3 possessions she touched the ball, they were nothing but net. And that's kind of where we've been. I think some of these girls have gotten frustrated. Ball's not going through the hoop, but they're getting the right looks. And I felt like Tuesday night we were able to, when we did force a turnover, we valued the ball, we valued the possession instead of turning it right back over or coming up empty-handed. And like you said, we might not have gotten a steal on every single full court press that we put on or when we had those moments, but we did force them into tough shots. And then we proceeded to rebound on the back end of it and push pace the other way. And I thought we did a really good job of sharing the ball. When I went back and watched film, we got a lot of skips. Anytime you're playing a zone, you're trying to get the skip. I thought in the first half, we got a little too in love with the 3-point line. We can shoot it, we can make them. But we talked about we call it the porch, the short corner. We got to get it down to the porch and play through the post a little bit. Thought in the second quarter, did a much better job of that. And then the big challenge to our girls was, hey, we could press them. We could continue to keep doing it. And sure, we're probably going to score. We're going to turn them over. We're going to wear them down. But we took the press off maybe a little earlier than normal. And the big challenge to everyone was, I want to see your half-court defense, because at the end of the day, if you cannot play good half-court defense against a great team or any team at all, then you're going to struggle. So that was a big challenge to us. We kind of tested all the girls in terms of, hey, we got to clean up our half-court defense. A little sluggish, but after halftime, I thought we kind of responded in terms of what we wanted to do defensively, what we wanted to take away, squeezing gaps, better on-ball pressure. And, again, it was another night where, I think Briley might have been our leading scorer. Lex was in double digits. Bailey was in double digits. But we hit 8 threes. And that's just kudos to sharing the ball and moving it around. And I thought we did a really, really good job of that against another conference opponent.
Yeah, and holding them to 14 points and really just watching that game, they didn't get a ton of looks. I mean, even shots on goal. They scored a few from the free throw line, and so that was big. But they're in that third quarter, and I was talking to some of the girls yesterday, and I was telling Abby and Lexi, I'm like, I've been there where you don't feel like your starters are playing the way you want them to play. You didn't throw a big fit. You didn't yell. You turn around. You go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see what this looks like. And I asked those girls. They said, "Oh no, we understood the point that was being made, because you're not just coaching for that game, a game you were way up. You're coaching for Marceline tomorrow night. You're coaching for South Harrison tournament, districts, and everything else." And so maybe talk about, as a coach, when you don't see the effort you want, how you address that with the team.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I didn't want to be the one to bring that up, but yeah, I think as a coach, you got a lot of different tactics you can use. Obviously you can get upset, you can make a scene, you can throw a clipboard, you can yell, you can scream. But at halftime, I told them the first 3 minutes with the crew that was going in, I was going to know what they were made of defensively and what their mentality was. And those first 3 minutes did not show the effort or the level of half court intensity in terms of defense specifically that I wanted to see. So, like you said, we sent the next 5 in, and the good thing for us is our next 5 are just as good. I mean, they can play. It's not like we're sending in people that are not capable, and then the same challenge was to them too. And I thought they did a good job when they came in. But it's a lot about, like you said, you're preparing for what's coming. We know that Marceline's going to give us their absolute best shot. And again, it's going to come down to little things. Everyone's got a role, everyone's got a job to do. And if you can't execute that against teams that maybe aren't of the same caliber as a Marceline or a Chillicothe that's coming for us, then you're going to be in a world of hurt. And that was a big task for them. Was when you come back in the game after you've had a moment to sit and think, I expect XYZ to happen. And that's exactly what happened. When they came in the fourth quarter, that crew that had to sit for probably 5 minutes, they understood the message, they responded, and they fixed the things that we asked them to fix. And a lot of it's just, you've got to take pride in your defense. You've got to take pride in your ability to guard the ball, guard your yard. And you got to take pride in your ability to communicate to one another. That's what great half-court defense is built on, and that's its foundation. So that was the big challenge, was go in. We know that we have a lead. We want to keep it and maintain it, but more importantly, like you said, we want to hold them to under 20 points. We want to hold them to under 15. And I thought the girls did a really good job of that. And everyone that got in the game in some way, shape, or form cleaned up something that we were asking them to clean up.
Yeah, there was great effort there. Now you go to Marceline, led by Ella Mosley, almost 17 points a game. And then they've got a bench, or the rest of the stars, kind of like you guys, 8, 7, 6 points a game. So going into that, they're undefeated in conference, only one loss on the season. How do you look at that heading into that game?
Yeah, we've been pretty blunt with the girls. You better bring your lunch pail. It's gonna be a tall task. We're very capable. I think that's the biggest thing. If we weren't capable, we'd probably have to do some gimmicky stuff. And we told the girls, we can't be gimmicky. We've got to be who we are, but we've got to be rock solid in all the things that we are, both on offense and on defense. Watching them on tape, they're quick, they're athletic, they're big. They get on the glass as well as anybody we've seen. They kind of remind me a little of Savannah in the way they get on the rim. And they're a little like us in the sense that they want to put pressure on you. They want to force you to turn it over. That's how that jump starts their offense. The Mosley girl's a stud. She's going to be something that we've got to make sure we're keeping eyes on, and we're in a spot where we take away what she likes. And that's the big key. When you're playing a team that's got great players, you've got to put them into places they don't like to score. You've got to put them into places that they don't normally operate. And that comes down to executing the scouting report. That comes down to paying attention to that. That comes down to everyone knowing what all those players' tendencies are and what they like. And then how can we take that away as an entire unit? It's going to come down to all 5 girls on the court from a defensive perspective. And then offensively, with the way they like to pressure you, it comes down to valuing the basketball. And that's something that over the last couple games at times we've struggled with. So I'm excited. I think anytime you get a chance to play an opponent like this on the road, you get to see who you are. You get to check your DNA. And our girls are going to have to come ready to play. I've told them since the Gallatin game was over, it's moving on. It's Marceline now. And if you don't think that Marceline doesn't have a target on our back, you're crazy. And rightfully so. It should be. And I think the exciting thing for me is we've got a great group of girls that want to do the right thing. Now it's about putting their best foot forward on Friday night, probably in a hostile environment, and again, kind of seeing who we are. What are we made of? How are we going to respond whenever things aren't going our way? What are we going to do whenever we get challenged and we get tested a little bit? And I think that's what you want this time of the year. You want to get tested. You want to find out who you are, and you want to see the bulk of your team do the things that you're asking them to do in that kind of environment. So again, I'm pumped for it. I think the girls are pretty excited, so it's going to be a good game, I hope.
All right. Well, Coach, we appreciate your time here on Sports Central, sponsored again by Harrison County Community Hospital. Good luck tomorrow night, Marceline. Have a Merry Christmas. We won't see you before the holidays, and we look forward to another interview in the new year in 2026.
Thanks, CF.